Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever the case may be, wherever you're joining in from, to another episode of Red Fellas on a Sunday night, or a Sunday day, or a Sunday morning. Again, wherever the case may be, wherever you're tuning in from. Liverpool. We're here to discuss Liverpool Football Club. The reason why I don't look my real age. My real age is 26, guys. I'm 26. And people often ask me, Chris, why do you look pushing 50? What's going on? It's this Liverpool Football Club that does this to me. But I wouldn't have it any other way, lads. I wouldn't have it any other way. Imagine being us. Like RX TV says, imagine being us. This is how football clubs are meant to be, guys. Football clubs are meant to give you thrills and spills and tribulations and trials, ups and downs, roller coasters, you name it. We have it at Liverpool Football Club. And we'll discuss the latest episode in the Liverpool life of being a Liverpool fan. And of course, when you want to discuss it, you have to have the best people to discuss it with. And I think I have some faces that you may recognize. We have Evan, we have Conroy, we have Keith. They're all doing well. I'm not going to ask them, maybe I will ask them individually because I'm tired. I'm so knackered. This club is knackering me out. No wonder Jurgen Klopp wants to call it a day. No wonder. We're fans, guys. We're just fans that wake up, sit on our armchair, sofa, whatever, and watch this Liverpool. And sometimes we stand next to the TV. Sometimes we go to the games, home and away, or whether we're watching in a bar or a pub, and we're tense and we're nervous and so many emotions running through our head. Imagine what Jurgen's like, or what it's like for Jurgen. But anyway, we're here to discuss Liverpool and the latest developments. As I said, Liverpool, Nottingham Forest 0, Liverpool 1, Evan. Imagine being us, hey?
It's nice being us, and it has been for quite a while. Just saying something because it hasn't always been nice being Liverpool. It's been okay for most of my life, but nothing more. Last 6, 7 years, it's been more than okay, and I'm eternally grateful for that. I'm just gonna bring myself to my mind state before the game. I was perhaps more confident than I should have been, Grizz. And like everybody else, I was typing out my just a game too far for Klopp's kids tweet. I had it ready. I was gonna send it away. I was gonna fire it, and then Darwin Nunez rocked my world for more than the first time this season. And yeah, imagine being us. A last minute goal is always great. It's always great. Always catches you off guard. But at the same time, chime in if y'all agree. I was not the least bit surprised to see that Liverpool had won the game in the 99th minute. You know, it used to be called Fergie time. Is it Klopp o'clock now? I don't
No,
know.
it's
I
definitely
yeah,
Kloppage time. It's
Stoppage time.
definitely
it's
Kloppage
Kloppage
time.
time. Yeah.
100%. David Smith says, I love this club. Oh, we love it, mate. We absolutely love it. Guys, thank you for joining us nice and early. 150 of you guys already camped in. We should be hitting, according to my maths, we should be hitting 75 likes already because just because we're Liverpool Football Club and we're here to talk about Liverpool. So that automatically 50% of you should get press that like button, smash that like button, tap, hit, do what you got to do. Big up Grizz, Evan, Connor, and Keith. I know Keith is waiting to talk about the fume from Rivals. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Keith's here to talk about the fume. We have PGMO, Conroy, Dean in the building as well. Maybe a couple of issues with the referees, and Evan's going to talk about maybe the tactical side and the wonderful McAllister. I have a feeling maybe. I don't know. I didn't even ask him. We didn't even discuss it. Maybe he may want to touch on McAllister. I'm just trying to read these guys' mind. I've known them for so long. I think I can do that. Or maybe
Oh
he
yeah.
just wants to shout Nunez. Did I read your mind? I don't know.
We're gonna do both. We're gonna do all of the above.
There,
It's gonna be
there
great.
you go. Yeah, hit the likes on your way in, guys. Hanford Road is in the building. Let's go. Let's go. We're gonna talk about it all. Con, how you doing, my friend? You're very calm. You're not like Evan, where Evan says he got a little bit confident. You're definitely not like Super Red over there to the left of you. Um, you're the more. I'll let you describe how you are in terms of when it comes to Liverpool. I think you're quite reasonable. You knew this is going to be a struggle. Did you really think we're going to score in the last kick of the game like that? Did you see it coming? How was your feeling?
To be honest, Chris, I actually did think this game was going to be a hard game. I think we're a little bit not overconfident, but we definitely were a bit just kind of like looking a little bit further ahead because last season against Forest. Not a good performance, Keith. I think you tweeted out about that as well. Even the performance when it was 0-0, it was a much better performance overall. So I was just a little bit nervous. I just felt 3 p.m. kickoff with this game. I had a little bit nervous going into it. I did feel that we would have enough. If you asked me if I was confident we're going to get a 99th minute winner, I'm going to say no. And by the way, I think that is the latest goal Liverpool have ever scored in the Premier League. I think the 90th night it is. I might be wrong. I heard it earlier on the radio, so it may be incorrect. Maybe someone, the broadcaster's not done their homework. But as far as I'm aware, that is technically the latest goal they've scored in the Premier League. So, I mean, that in itself, on top of us already having the record for the most goals in the last 10 minutes this season, Evan is right. You shouldn't be surprised. But I'm not going to lie. When Grizz Can's tweeting something already, like before the game's finished, like we're not going to win. You know, it's a step too far. My confidence was gone at that point. But to be fair, if what's happened this season, we shouldn't have fought. You know, because they've done so much. They keep surprising us, and this might be, in my opinion, I tweeted it as well. I do think I'm quite balanced. I think I'm quite a measured person. I do think this is like a sliding doors moment for the season because I feel like we don't get that win. Then the injuries are like the injuries, players coming back. We need to beat City. We need to make a statement win. Then Arsenal are on our tails. I feel like this moment and that goal, I think in my head it could be absolutely iconic. I think that's the biggest moment of the season so far. But if you ask me if I knew it was coming, I'm going to say no. I felt like it was one of those days at the office, and thankfully I was wrong though. And I'm wrong about a lot of things, and I'm not got any problem being wrong with it. But for me, even towards the end, as Omar tweeted in the chat, Nunez, because he was listening to it on the radio, I mean, lost for words, to be honest. And that doesn't happen very often, Grizz. So I was lost for words.
Yeah, I had a nice little exchange with David Lynch.
Yeah,
if you guys haven't checked out David Lynch's work, go and check him out. The former, well, he doesn't work for the Echo anymore, but he's one of the most connected Liverpool journalists around. Keith, I'm sorry I disappointed you. I tweeted it. So David says, I was in the process of writing a full-time tweet about how today was just a game too far for a Liverpool side that has coped so well with injuries of late. But then Darwin Nunez pops up in the 99th minute. And I said, and I tweeted him, this is why you're a professional, David. Because I had tweeted in the 97th minute, like, please give me some leeway.
It wasn't a dig, Grizz. I was feeling the same as you, mate.
No, 100%. But I don't often do that. Because this club teaches you so many lessons. Liverpool Football Club is a humbler. But I didn't learn. And this is why David Lynch is a professional. And I'm an absolute nobody. And I said, this is why you're a professional, David. Because I had tweeted exactly his words. Maybe some credit, like I tweet like a journal. So there's some good to come out of it. A game too far with a depleted squad, I said, Keith. I feared it would happen. It's happened. Tall order now for the league, in my opinion. So unfortunate with timings and number of crucial injuries. And David replied, haha, never go early, Grizz. Keith, did you go early?
Never. Let me say why I didn't go early, right? So break it down. So my partner decided we're going to make plans on Saturday, 3:00. We're going to go to central London. We're going to meet some friends, family, etc. Go to Dishoom. If you haven't been to Dishoom, banging place, by the way. And the trains are completely messed up in our area at the moment. So to get from where I lived into London Waterloo at the moment, it takes 47 minutes, where usually it takes about 25 to 30 minutes. So I'm on this train for 47 minutes from the kickoff. So I've gone from Hampton Wick, right, 47-minute journey into London, and I've still got the game on the phone. I get into London, I go down, I get the Northern Line. Is it the North? Yeah, we took the Northern Line. To get to Tottenham Court Road, I've still got the game on. I'm walking through Carnaby Street I've still got the game on. I've not let this game go. And then literally, I must have frightened a few people, obviously being a very large man. But all of a sudden, I just exploded. I'm in the middle of Carnaby Street, busy, packed out street. I just jumped in the air.
Keith Cross bellowing out is a scary sight. I tell you that.
Grab my miss, yeah, get in there. I did not give up. I stayed on that phone, on that stream till the very last second. I don't know what it was about that.
What was it that?
Do you know what it was? It was
it
like,
us? Was it just us?
I just think it was like, I feel like it was just like just dues, right? I just felt that we had put pressure, we were making things happen, and it wasn't quite going off. And sometimes you think it's going to be one of those days, but I don't know why. I just thought this is just not how it ends. These last 4 or 5 games we've had, this is just not. It doesn't end on a whimper. Surely it can't end on a whimper. You know what I mean? Not with the players on. Nunez comes onto the pitch. I don't know. I just felt that there's something in the air, and there was a record to be broken, Grizz. And that record was that Liverpool, if my mind does not mistake me, have never won at the City Ground, or haven't won at the City Ground
in the Premier League.
In the Premier League era. That is
we haven't
outrageous.
played there much, to be honest with you. Someone in the chat will tell us how many times we've played there, but we haven't won in the Premier League. The very first game on Sky Sports, guys, when Sky Sports came out, and you guys are way too young for this, obviously, but I watched it live and exclusive, and it was from the City Ground, and it was Liverpool, and it was Ian Rush. Yes, it was Ian Rush. I remember the team. I won't be able to name the team, but which kit was it? Shit, my mind's gone blank. But yeah, Ian Wone playing for them, I think, at the time. I don't know if I'm right on that, but it was the first ever game televised on a Super Sunday from Sky Sports. So we've got a horrid history there. You're right. And you're right. Look, I tweeted before the game so many wrongs of last season, and that was one of the lows, right? We barely mustered a shot on target. I know Virgil missed about 3 open, clean headers or chances, whatever. I remember playing a weird formation. I think Curtis Jones and Henderson were a double pivot, I think. We had no strikers. I think only Salah was playing, I think, out of the top 3. It was a horrible day out, and Gomez gave the ball away and they scored and they clung on. It was one of those games where we've righted so many wrongs of last season, and if we were to continue this pursuit of the Holy Grail, and we had to right this wrong as well.
Yeah, that was certainly on the agenda. I think a lot, just zooming out for a second, I think a lot of what the goal was this year was to right wrongs, and it's not specific to just one fixture, I want to say, because last season wasn't really the transition season, if y'all know what I mean by that. This season was supposed to be more of the transition year, but it's ended up being a serious title charge, and look, I'm very grateful for that. But it is about righting wrongs, and now it's become a farewell tour. This season has become bigger than it was supposed to be in every sense of the word. And I think we're all still kind of like grappling with that a little bit. I think back to other fixtures. Y'all have pointed out a few fixtures in the past where we were seriously depleted. And I did not have the same bullish sort of confidence that I have now, because now for the first time, this Liverpool team has serious depth, like serious depth that you can call upon. Cody Gakpo, for example, hasn't really played well in his last handful of games. Not a concern for me personally, but Cody Gakpo starts for 17 other teams in the Premier League, and he's been Liverpool's 5th choice attacker this season. He's really struggled to find game time ahead of all of our other brilliant options. But yeah, it is about righting wrongs when I think about it, and I might be trying to get a bit too metaphorical with it. We're all very emotional right now.
No, we are. It's absolutely being metaphorical. emotional, all of that business. This is what it's about. This is what this club does to us. Even if you're not that way inclined, it brings out the emotions in you and the passion. You know, it's a you have to be a supporter of Liverpool to understand it. I don't think anyone can explain it to another rival fan. Is there a
It's an
way?
emotion. It's an emotionally charged fan base, and it was so before we had this manager
Yeah.
whose secret sauce is emotionally charging people up. You know, Klopp has a leadership that transcends sports. It's the same reason people always say Klopp would be a brilliant politician, a brilliant union leader, a brilliant this, a brilliant that. Any leadership role he would be great at. So yeah, that's the best way I could describe it.
I would say on that, sometimes I feel like it's our biggest strength and can also be our Achilles heel, that emotion. I feel like sometimes it can give us incredible highs like we had this season and what we had with Klopp, but it can also give us situations like last season and arguably the situations where we had the injury crisis where we just snuck fourth as well. Like you'll get blips because we just put so much into it, physically, emotionally, mentally. It can be such that, you know, trying to follow that up again it can be a bit of a challenge. So yeah, I just wanted to add that point.
No, you're absolutely spot on, Keith. And this is why I'm in like about 25 WhatsApp groups, and I've kind of muted all of them, and I don't get involved much anymore, apart from the Red Fellas one, because I love you guys. But and everyone's like, when are you jumping on this bandwagon? We're on this bus, we're on this train. Let's do this. And I'm like, I don't want to be that uncle, right? But there's a wardrobe or wardrobes full of t-shirts that I've worn and been there, and cardigans and everything. I've seen it all.
Well,
And
you
the
also
last
can't
time-
be that uncle because you're 26, Chris. It just wouldn't work
well,
out.
there is that. There is that. But this club makes you look closer to like 45 or whatever. Fuck's sake. There's downsides of this supporting this club as well, right? And it's like we've been so close so many times, emotionally vested, and you're right, Keith. You know what they say: the bigger, the higher, the bigger you are, the harder the fall. So the higher you go, the harder the fall, type of thing. So if you let your emotions get carried away, and then there's failure. But if you're balanced about it, I don't know. Is the fall less painful? I don't know if it's less painful. Maybe it's, I don't know, easier to take. But Evan's right. We're getting way too philosophical. There's 11 games to go. So much can happen. Guys, 300 views in here. Smash the like button. Subscribe if you, for some strange reason, haven't already subscribed. Make sure you guys are following all the guys on the panel as well. Conroy, the lineup comes out, and as always, we're eager to know what we got, who we got, and what's our options. The options were no Mohamed Salah, Nunez and Szoboszlai and Endo back in the squad, but not deemed fit enough to start. Was you concerned when you saw this lineup? Of course, we give a full league debut to Bobby Clark. Alexis McAllister plays in a advanced 8, and we have a new DM, which we will probably start the show off and get into a discussion about Joey G.
Yeah, a bit of a mad one that, to be honest. I didn't think I'd be sitting here nearly 3/4 into the season talking about Joe Gomez playing as a DM, but listen.
Did you not think I'm waffling when I told you like Joey G's in the 6?
I thought, do you know what? I thought, do you know what? He's maybe just like a couple of weeks ago you said Bradley going on the right wing with Joe Gomez going right back just as a needs must. But it was a shot in the dark. That ended up happening, Grizz, to be fair, in the cup final. So I thought that was a bit wild at the time. This is next level. So maybe I thought there was a bit of sarcasm. I was like, oh, Grizz has been a bit sarcastic, a bit randomly on a Saturday, but it was Friday night, so not a Saturday. And just in general, I was like, we'll see how this goes. Because as a player, he's definitely improved again so much this season, got himself back into form. Not got rid of completely, but that accident-prone kind of form he had for a bit where he'd just have a little, issue in a game and his form would go for the rest of the game, he'd just head down or just make, just he couldn't get back into that rhythm. So when I heard that, I was like, it's a completely different position. It's like when we talk about Trent and people say, no, Trent should be in midfield, like as a starting position. There's debates on that because it's a completely different position. And this is one of the best passers in the world. And we have a debate on that. So I think when it comes to Joe Gomez, it's completely different. So yeah, I was a bit apprehensive with that. I think on Bobby Clark, again, it's great to see that he's got the confidence. Obviously needs must, but to get a start, following in the footsteps of his dad. Just on a side note, I saw a comment as well. It was on a broadcaster saying that Lewis Kumas and Bobby Clark have outdone their fathers. I feel like that's a bit
Already? That's so
disrespectful.
harsh.
Like
Well, that-
Jason Kumas played for Wales and has literally played in the Premier League and a legend at Tranmere and West Brom. And the same with Lee Clark, obviously at Newcastle, done a lot of things. So I thought it was a bit of a weird take, to be honest. But yeah, good to see him get the nod. And I know we're going to speak about it, but I thought he'd done very well. And again, that's not the easiest fixtures to start with. We mentioned last season at the City Ground, they're going to be up for it. They're fighting relegation. But on that, and apart from that as well, I was quite happy to see McAllister as in the 8 position. However, in my head, I'm thinking, well, McAllister's played in the 6, so maybe it'd be better to go there. But then you've maybe got Gomez as at 8, so that's probably even worse, to be honest. But yeah, in general, I was apprehensive overall, Grizz, to see how it went. I felt like our big players, our kind of experienced players, had to step up for us to get the win, and I know we're going to discuss that. But it'd be interesting to see everyone else's takes on Joe Gomez's performance there, and if we ever want to see him there again, and the chat, get their thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, we'll get the big man's thoughts before we get into everyone else's. Keith, was you cool? Was you okay? Was you comfortable? Did you think this is the way forward? Or was you of the opinion, maybe we should have started off with the big guns and then take them off, take the lead, blow them away, relegation, not the most confident Nottingham Forest team? Or was this the way to go first and just consolidate?
To be honest with you, the team that we put out against Nottingham Forest last time round had some of our big hitters and we lost. So this is how I've been approaching our injury situation this entire time. I've always looked at games and looked at situations and think, well, Salah did play in that game and we lost anyway. So how bad is it going to be this time around? Maybe they might do something different. Just for the positives, I really wanted to shine a light on this. Kelleher, Konate, Van Dijk, that little Bermuda Triangle going on at the moment. I never thought in a million years that we would be as solid as we have been. So when I'm looking at that, I'm looking at the back 4 and I'm looking at Queef at the moment. I'm thinking to myself, well, as long as we're solid at the back, anything can happen up front. Like the reality is now Liverpool on 3 clean sheets in a row, right? Having had like a million different players playing in different positions. So that's what kind of gave me the comfort that, okay, we've got solid in the back. Virgil's in the form of his life. I'm quite confident to see what the other boys can produce up front. Now I've got a bit of a left field, a bit of a obsession at the moment because I've only seen this boy play 2 times and not that many minutes. But at the moment, I believe that Jayden Dan should have started this match. I believe we strike while the iron is hot. I think one of the things that I found really interesting in terms of what he brings to that centre forward position, and this is going to be a hot take, you can clip this up, but by next season, he will be challenging Darwin Nunez for that centre forward position, and Cody Gakpo is going to be used as a utility player. Not necessarily going to be out of the squad, he's going to play a lot of games, but Cody Gakpo's time through the middle are numbered. Some of the reasons why, I think Jayden Dan's plays that position like Firmino, but has the finishing and the prowess of somebody that's more like an actual striker. I think Cody Gakpo, funny enough, it proved actually the way this game started is he comes in too deep too often. It's the way of his style. He's always been used to operating on the wide hand side, getting the ball, driving, etc. But he's not a natural centre forward. And I thought after Jayden banged in those 2 goals, and in similar situations that Cody got to against Southampton and took too long, Jayden was more of a killer finish. I would have liked to have seen him start this match. And actually, I thought even when he came on, he was a nuisance. So that would have been my hot take. That was the only position where I thought actually maybe Harvey, you could have given Harvey a rest. You could have shifted Diaz to the right, Gakpo to the left, and you could have probably started Dans. And actually, Harvey, even though he's been given a 7.2 and he still put a lot of effort in, I thought this could have been a game too much for him. He's played a lot more football than he's ever played before. So, yeah, that was my kind of like when I looked at this team. Joe Gomez, and on a side note with him, I just love the fact that we've been debating Trent Alexander-Arnold playing in midfield for like ages, and now Joe Gomez has played midfield back-to-back, basically. And it's funny how life works out, but what a guy, right? They say jack of all trades. That's almost like a dirty word these days in football. Everybody likes to be a specialist. Everybody likes to be, we live in a hyper-targeted society. AI gives you the exact answer to everything. We live in a society where everybody's got to be that specialist in that position. And Joe Gomez is kind of like given a bit of a romance to being the jack of all trades, because he's arguably played more minutes than he's ever played in the last few years. And he's played in about 20 million positions, but because he can do a decent job there.
He's the definition of utility player. When you used to play PES and you'd look for a sign and you click utility player, that is Joe Gomez at the moment.
We ladies and gentlemen, we asked Keith for just a few lines on this on the lineup, and Keith gave his inner thoughts that he's been gathering all weekend in the WhatsApp
his intrusive thoughts. The intrusive thoughts of Jaden Dan's superseding Darwin Nunez.
He couldn't wait until 20 minutes into the show, and he spilled everything that he was planning on spilling. Instead of like sort of segueing into moves, he said, "No, fuck this. I want to say it all." But listen, you made some great points, and funny enough, they are some of the talking points that I want to discuss with you guys. Because he mentions, look, the game started. I thought with the lineup, I'm very much with Keith. I thought this lineup is designed or has been selected to make sure we don't let things get out of hand. We don't let the city ground atmosphere take its toll. We control proceedings and we work our way into the game where eventually we bring on the big guns and finish them off. So therefore, it was solid enough. But what did you make of the Joe Gomez? Let's get into it. Joe Gomez, an experiment just because of needs must, or starts off as a centre-back. Absolutely can cover for everyone there. Goes to right back. Absolutely can cover for everyone at right back now. And now he's done a magnificent job at left back. Now we're seeing him utilised as the Endo replacement. Because let's assume for now, McAllister is being used as an advanced 8. Just an experiment because of injuries, or something to ponder? Because my gosh, he's developed very nicely in the other positions. But this is a total different position, right?
Nothing to ponder other than Liverpool are really banged up and they just needed a body there. Love Joe Gomez. Came back from the brink. More than half the fan base would have sold him for 20 million last summer. And now he's been one of the most important players this season, filling in wherever and whenever. But if yesterday's performance was perhaps a game too far, didn't end up being. But if that was the case, then I think playing the 6th role is a position too far for Joe Gomez, and that's not an indictment of him. It's the hardest position in the game, next to being the guy responsible for scoring all the goals. You see how many world-class 6s there are in the world. There's less than I can count on one hand, in my opinion, that are truly elite. And it's just a tough position. He gets caught on the ball a bit. Distribution obviously isn't there. Again, that's not what he's there to do. I will say that the one really cool thing about having Joe Gomez as a 6 is that if you turn the ball over in a dangerous counterattacking situation, he just drops in and becomes yet another super strong, super fast center back to defend those transitions that Van Dijk and Konate do so well, because they can hang with the fastest forwards in the league. So can Joe Gomez at top speed. But it's not a sustainable approach. I think we'll move away from it at the nearest possible moment. We've probably seen the last of it for this season. Now that Endo's back, Soboslai's coming back, McAllister's still there. We're going to continue to get bodies back. But something, my favorite part about Keith's monologue that I just want to touch on real quick was when he described uh, Konate, Virgil, and Kelleher as the Bermuda Triangle. Which I know he didn't mean in a negative sense, but if somebody used that in a negative sense, that is one hell of a slanderous term to use. Like last season, Liverpool's midfield was the Bermuda Triangle because they just went missing for 60 to 70 minutes at a time. That was the real Bermuda Triangle.
You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute.
When a striker comes into that triangle.
Okay.
He switched
it's a cool slanderous name, though.
He switched it up very nicely. It's the Bermuda Triangle for the opposition. You come in that territory, you will go missing. Amazing.
I really like that. Yeah, he got a 5.8. I don't know what SofaScore does to grade people, but he got a 5.8, which is a bit harsh.
Guys, I'm with. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just gonna say I thought that was a bit harsh on Elanga because I'm a huge fan of his, and I think in another world, parallel universe, he gets a goal on us, but that's just me.
It was a weird start. I kind of expected it. Conroy, you alluded to that. You thought it's going to be that kind of start. I thought it was going to be a more, we've played a lot of games. The energy levels aren't there to go out and blitz them. We haven't got the attack to go out and blitz them. Harvey Elliott, Diaz, and Gakpo is probably our least efficient set of forwards, if you want to call Harvey Elliott forward, because obviously our front three are Jota, Nunez, and Salah in terms of the efficient goal getters, so to speak. That's a load of goals out of the team. I thought we were going to try to control proceedings with, of course, Clark, McAllister, and Gomez. Tarmizi, big up Tarmizi. He says, stark contrast between Gomez and Endo in terms of understanding and occupying space on and off the ball, but kudos to Joey holding on. Huge Joey G fan. Love Joey G. The redemption story has been second to none. What a guy. What a bloke. Magnificent comeback story. I'm like with you guys. I think we discussed so many shows. Shall we sell him? Shall we not? We were like acting the Bertie Big Bollocks. Shall we take 50 million for him? Shall we take 30 million for him? He stays, and the story is amazing and is beautiful. And if he ends up with honors to his name, magnificent. He is the new Joey Milner. Not in DM though, Conroy. I'm with Ev and I'm with Tarmizi. I'm not with Keith. Oh no, who was in the WhatsApp group that was salivating over him? I can't remember which group it was, whatever. Joey Gomez, for me, was very hard watch. But that's not on Joey Gomez. That's obviously on the way Klopp set it up. And I'm hoping that it was a needs must, like Evan says. We had no option. And I'm hoping, which will mean positive things with the injury situation, it's the last time we see him. Because this is the last game that I feel we can, quote unquote, take a risk with our lineup.
Take a gamble, yeah.
Gamble.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that, Grizz. I can only imagine if you're Joe Gomez, you're thinking, do you know what, I've came back for the brink, as Evan said, and then you get the lineup, and it's like, I must be reading that. You know how when they bring the numbers out and they announce the lineup, but you can't figure it out because they do it the numbers wise on the sheet on social media. Like, must be a mistake there. And the six, I'm sure there was a conversation before that. I'm being a bit tongue in cheek, but I can only imagine how he's like got himself back to this. You want me to start as a number 6 against Forest? Just thinking, people train their full career to like get to a point where their passing is good enough to play in that position, their press resistance, their awareness around them. As Evan said, I think, especially in football today, it's one of those positions. It's very hard. If you try to buy a DM tomorrow, it's an acquired position. It's very difficult to get, and you want Joe Gomez to do it. Yeah, I could only imagine some of his inner thoughts on that one. I think, again, see, because he's an athletic person as well, Grizz, like he is an athlete, and you might say not every footballer is technically an athlete. He has definitely got that fitness and that just he can probably do, as you say, the Keith's mentioned, a utility player in different positions. But hopefully it's like Henderson at centre-back a couple of years ago. Needs must, it's done, we'll not see it again. And that's what I'm hoping for. And I think because obviously Endo was on the bench, it's good signs going forward that'll just be it. And I do agree, guys, I feel now we're in the driving seat, we are where we are. There can't really be any gambles like that because as much as we love this result and we've been unbelievable at chasing games this season, right? There can be certain ones where if you leave it to that little bit of luck or you leave it to that point, you just don't get over the line because the header hits the bar, the keeper pulls off a great save. That can happen. So I agree with that, and hopefully we never see that again. And to be fair, some of the youth we've put in these situations as well. Like I know I said last week, going forward, whatever, if they will achieve at the club, but they've shown that Klopp's got the confidence in them that they can step up as well. So hopefully that'll continue as well and keep our depth there. Can I just add one more thing before we go into the game? And just to allude on Evan's point about attacking depth. The very start of the season, we all said that, and it's kind of worked out this way as well, we're all correct that if you're not playing great in a game, we had those 5 forwards who can change it. So if you're not doing it, you've got someone off the bench who can really push it, a bit like Manchester United with 4 strikers under Ferguson. But it's worked out that we've actually, with them being injured or being, out, we've actually had to still bring our youth in as well. So it just shows you to actually have that depth. We may have been in a similar situation where we were a couple of years ago, where we're completely depleted. Listen, it's not great, but it's actually that depth we got in that place, in that position, is actually, it's avoided us getting just to that point where we remember when it was Henderson, Fabinho centre-back, where it was really Nat Phillips, Reece Williams. We've not quite got to that point. So I just wanted to mention that as well, because I feel like that's another positive from having such strong attacking depth. So in the full team, not just up front.
Rack says, lol, you lot said the same with 8 in the 8 until you got used to it again. Too quick to write off. We're not writing off the player. We've actually glowingly spoken about the player. I'll speak for myself, but I won't speak for everyone else. But I'm definitely writing him off in the DM going forward. We done a magnificent call-in show yesterday, guys. Make sure you check it out in your spare time when you haven't. Some of the callers are brilliant, and some of the takes and the opinions were brilliant. Some wild, some unwild, or not wild, non-wild.
It was bouncing. I tuned in for like 5 minutes because
It was
It was
bouncing.
bouncing. It really was.
And my co-host, the Colonel himself, Colonel Zuberi, says, at the rate of progress and at the rate of him learning the fullback the fullback role, the right back, the left back, and the centre back, he claimed, if given a run of games, Joey Gomez can be one of the best DMs in the Premier League because of his physical attributes. I think, Keith, he was chosen. To bear in mind, Nottingham Forest have, in my opinion, probably got the quickest front 4 in Elanga, Hudson-Odoi, Origi, and Gibbs White. I'd say as a combined 4. That's not to obviously add Iwayu. How would you say his name, guys? The former Liverpool player. Help me out here.
Awoni. Taiwo Awoni.
There you go. Awoni. Yeah. I was going there. If you combine their speeds as a foursome, they are very, very quick, mobile, agile. And I think that was one of the ploys. Hope to sort of control that with Joey Gomez in there, as opposed to an Endo who's not fully fit, and a McAllister who's obviously needed further forward. So I get it. But in that opening half, Keith, there wasn't much fluidity. There wasn't much pace in the passing. I don't think we risked. I don't think we overlapped as much as we could have or should have. The right-hand side was non-existent, Keith. I was very surprised how Elliot and Starboy Connor weren't allowed. Do you think that was instruction? Because he kept inverting at times as well. Or do you think it was just the way game had? We just didn't have the energy to go gung-ho from the start? Because I found it a very passive start.
It was a passive start, but I think it's important to remember when you play, like, one of the things that stood out to me is I don't think I've ever seen Divock Origi do as much defensive work for a football team as I saw him do for Nottingham Forest in that game. I'm sorry to say, not even for us, right? That man was like filling in, and like the way their attackers defended, like it was such a deep, compact Nottingham Forest that when you're going into a game with so many changes, changing again, at some point you're going to face a low block team that are desperate for points in a relegation battle, and it's going to be it's going to be too much. If we look at the game against Southampton, we look at the game against Chelsea, they were teams that, they wanted to come play football. They wanted to kind of be expansive. They gave us opportunities to kind of play that basketball style football. So I think credit to Nottingham Forest, particularly in that first first 25, 30 minutes. They just were very, very compact, and they were trying to sniff out chances from time to time. And actually, I think we inverted. You're right. Conor Bradley kind of was inverting a lot more. I think at times to maybe protect Joe Gomez as well, to have him aligned. Because one of the things that I find really interesting about Joe Gomez, and I actually thought, okay, let me just check to see what his average position was, and I'm right, is that Joe Gomez, and I saw, and it was the same with Southampton. So obviously he's supposed to be the 6, right? And he's playing midfield or not, whatever. But because he's been playing in the wings as attacking, our left and right backs are so attacking, I actually thought he found himself much further forward than he needed to be. Like, his average position was alongside McAllister. So it kind of tells you how far he was going. I think the issue he had was like his just in midfield, you have no time on the ball in the Premier League at all. There's zero, nothing. Like, literally, you have that ball comes to you, go get rid of it. And time and again, he got caught in possession a lot more. I would almost there, like 2-10. I thought he would have been a lot more deeper in that middle between 4 and 5, but he was actually just as close to the 10. He was linking up quite a lot on that left-hand side, but when the ball kept getting fizzed to him, he'd take that extra little bit too many touches, and he'd get dispossessed a lot. And that's no slander on him. That's just the way the midfield works. So overall, I just thought the team suffered a little bit from a compact team. And you've got the other issue you had, and as you could probably see, look, Diaz is the furthest man forward, but Gakpo is supposed to be the striker, right? And obviously Harvey Elliott and Gakpo played in similar areas. So that's another issue you have. You've got two players that like to occupy spaces that are slightly deeper. You've got no one really making those runs in behind when the few times Nottingham Forest do come out, and it all just felt congested, frustrating. And we've been here a million times before, and it just smelt like one of those situations where the ball would bounce in Nottingham Forest's favour, and they'd get through, or 1v1 with the keeper, and something would happen. And that is where, to end my monologue, big up Kelleher, in my opinion. Absolutely big up Kelleher. And I'd like to potentially to shine some light on him today, because he is, I can't believe this is the same goalkeeper that we were talking about earlier this season when we were saying, do you know what, actually, form fell off. We could have got 20 million for him. Now we don't even know if we're going to get that. He's gone from that to arguably being, with his feet and the saves himself, back to being not a 20 million pound keeper anymore, but a 50, 60 million pound keeper, because our frustrations from being too congested equaled Elanga going through on goal. And boy, that was one of the biggest moments of the game for us with that save. So
I guess that is probably the main talking point about that first half in terms of incident. We don't create much but the couple of times that they get through, and look, on the whole, we absolutely controlled the pace and directness of what I alluded to, the players wise. But if they did get through, and I think even that chance I think Keith's talking about would have probably been given offside, but Kelleher wasn't to know. And he's right, we have discussed the situation with Kelleher, but again, what it's evidenced and shown us is rhythm is key. It doesn't matter if you're an outfield player or a goalkeeper. He now has had a run of games, and he's showing his true colours that we saw for the last couple of seasons.
Definitely. It's so crucial for a goalkeeper to just get a run the same way, an outfield player gets a run. You look at, we touched briefly on Cody Gakpo's form or lack thereof in recent weeks. Cody Gakpo has played, we've asked him to play 4 or 5 different positions this season. He's played on both sides of the midfield 8. He's played all across the front line. He's only averaging 44 minutes a match, and it's sparse, So we haven't allowed Gakpo to find the rhythm that, anybody's game requires, and the same can be said of Kelleher. When he first comes in for Allison this season, and even towards the tail end of last season, Kelleher was not playing well whatsoever. I remember coming away from the last day of last season away to Southampton, I believe, 4-4 or something like that. I remember thinking Kelleher should have saved all 4 of those. He should have done better with at least 3 of them. And then there was a few moments when he came into the team this season where I was left feeling, oh, well, Kelleher's made a bit of a mess of that. But now that he's had this rhythm, now that he's had that confidence, or allowed opportunities to have his confidence grow, all of a sudden he's back to looking like the best number 2 option in the league, which we all knew that he was capable of. I mean, we have evidence from a few seasons ago of him doing this. And Kelleher, I think it's really crucial with his feet. I don't think this is personally. I don't think this is a hot take at all. With his feet, Kelleher is better than Allison. I
agree.
think that's always been, I think, kind of plain to see. Allison obviously better in every other category to do with goalkeeping, but Kelleher with his feet is incredible. Is it Ederson level quality with your feet? Probably not, but it's really important that
I'll go
if you are
as far I'll go far as saying there's not many apart from Edison. There's not many better than him.
No, it's tough
Honestly.
to think of. Yeah, it's tough to think of somebody because I think even in today's day and age of football, I look around the Premier League and I see a lot of starting goalkeepers that are not good enough with their feet to be a starting goalkeeper in the Premier League. Even if their team's philosophy isn't play out the back. Even if you're still playing hit and hope football, route one stuff, you still need to be pretty good with your feet. And I look across the Premier League, I see plenty of number ones that aren't good enough in that regard, and mostly every number 2 isn't good enough in that regard. So I feel really blessed to have Caoimhín Kelleher here, especially another underrated attribute. The guy's really good in penalty shootouts. I trust him in penalty shootouts. I trust him to take a penalty. There you go. You know what I mean? So if you have a number 2 option who's A, good just generally, B, good on the ball in a modern sense, and C, you've seen him step up in the biggest occasions, you know, in penalty shootouts, then it's hard to feel any type of way about Kelleher. I remember after the 21-22 season, I remember thinking, well, it's been great, but that dude is for sure going to go be a number 1 somewhere else in Europe's top 5 leagues. We're going to get a lot of money for him, but that didn't end up happening. And I was honestly relieved because I'm like, okay, now we have this
it's
incredible
amazing, isn't
backup.
It's amazing. We're gonna have a similar conversation this summer now because now his value's gone up again because of the last month or so, and it's gonna increase. And now I think
Let me ask then, Grizz, how many Premier League teams does Caoimhín Kelleher start for? Let me ask you guys that.
Over half.
You know what I mean?
At this stage, I know we like to talk about what would happen if we let him go, but I've never known a more injury-prone goalkeeper than Alisson, and he's only getting older. So at this rate,
see, Keith, you're forgetting about a Mr. Chris Kirkland. Even I'm old enough to remember Chris Kirkland's issues, despite all that talent. But let me throw a name out there, and I'm not picking on them because it's Everton. Is Jordan Pickford clearly better than Caoimhín Kelleher?
No.
To the eye?
No. I'd say over half. He starts for over half the teams.
Yeah,
over
I would
half.
say at least 10. At least 10. Yeah.
Bit of a non-event, Conroy. Halftime. Go on,
Chris,
you were going to say something.
Add something about Kelleher as well, because I think I actually was on the train that said he did need some games and we shouldn't write him off, just to add that. But also,
Go on, Conroy.
the call-in a couple of weeks ago, we're all devastated. You know, Alisson's out because it was your call. I wasn't on it. I was listening. It was another great one. You should check the call-in out. It's bouncing. It's different. It's very good though. But
It's different. I like the way you said that. It's different.
but on that, people were saying like, you know, oh, we've not got a number 2 for a title race, and I was just like, who does have a number 2 for a title race? It's not as if that is a requirement for a number 2, because one, you need to have a keeper who doesn't want to start every week. It's a very difficult position. So I think at the time, some of the chat were saying Ortega or Kelleher are probably up there as the top 2, and I think that was probably recency bias as well, because Ortega had came in a few times and done quite well. But I think when you actually look at it, we might have that one who's definitely up there, because the way we want to play, as Evan mentioned, with his feet, and I think he's definitely, so watching an interview as well, he's definitely not, I hate when people say filled out, but he's definitely made himself more imposing when it comes to one-on-ones. Obviously working with Alisson and the coaches is going to do that. And you could look at it this way. I could spin the narrative a little bit as well. He could say, I could go and start for, let's say, like bottom half of the table. Let's say, I don't know, let's off the top of my head, Burnley's too low. But just say a team like that, right? Say he goes, even say Everton is that's maybe a bad example, but say a team like that. What are you looking forward to the season? You might want to start for your nation. I get that. That could be up there. you do a lot of things. You're not going to be really competing in any cups. So from his point of view, and I think Keith makes a good point, the fact that Alisson does get injured now and again, and for spells it could be 2-3 months, he probably will play more than a normal number 2. And the way it's going, touch wood, will be competing for a lot of trophies even after this year, hopefully. So he might look at, nowadays, keepers usually play to about 38 anyway. So say he leaves Liverpool. What age is he now, guys? What's Keller's? About 20, 25?
Mid-20s to early
Yeah,
20s,
26.
mid-20s.
Yeah.
Say he leaves at 30 years old, 31 years old, right, with 8 trophies, right? He can go and have those experiences then. And I guess it really just depends who you are as a person. But for me, I think it would be ideal, and I agree with Keith, because Alisson does pick up weird injuries for a number 1 keeper, best in the world. He does have these injuries now and again. So for me, I would do all we could to keep him. And I just think the guy, it does show you on Evan's point, you get a run of games, he looks more
Makes the
confident
world of
than before.
difference. Makes the
Yeah,
world of difference.
and even I've always thought though, see barring that Arsenal 5-5 where he looked like a terrible goalkeeper, him and Emi Martinez were both atrocious that night at Anfield, right? But since he came in after
Look
that,
at them now. Both of them.
exactly.
Look at them now.
World Cup winner, and then probably one of the most confident keepers with his feet. It shows you, confidence and rhythm can do that to you. But I think my opinion's changed now. I actually think we need to do what we can to keep him, because if you let him go, it's not an easy position to fill. It really, really isn't. I mean, you mentioned Kirkland. Remember when we had that spell where it was like Dudek, Kirkland, Scott Carson? There wasn't really like a solid number 1 at the time, and it was a weird time as a Liverpool fan.
Shout out to, don't go too harsh on Chris Kirkland. Shout out to Chris Kirkland and Neil Mellor, who I had the pleasure of watching the League Cup final with in the stands. So let's not go too.
He's a good keeper. Just
Yeah.
he's really
Just in case he's watching it, Chris. This is Conroy's views, not mine.
No. I'm just
joking.
what I was meaning is that was a weird time because there wasn't. It's hard. The overall point, it's hard to get.
Of course.
And I think City and Liverpool are probably the only ones who've actually got that nailed on. A player can come in and at least do a
competent job, and you don't feel the difference. Our very own, talking about people that can't be replaced, our very own Cav, who can't be replaced, but misses today's shows. He says, just got in, sorry to miss the show. Everyone smash the like button. And Ev, love the beard, brother. There you go. Bit of brotherly love from Cav for your beard.
Thanks, Cav. I miss you.
What's he noticed that I'm missing? Like, you've always had this kind of sometimes going on now? Or is it new?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't grown it out in a while, just because mustaches are having a moment.
Oh,
what I
of
mean?
course. Yeah.
They're having a moment here in California. I don't know about elsewhere, but now I'm feeling a bit rugged because in my soul I'm a lumberjack. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, it's lumberjack time. It's our very own NBA, my personal friend Bilal from Slough's in the building as well. All the regulars are in the chat. Close to 400 of you guys in here. We should be on 150 likes. I haven't checked. Smash the like button. Tap it. Hit the like button. We should be on the way to 200 likes. The War Hat is on. The Reds are on the hunt. VVD and McAllister were phenomenal. Hadn't beaten Forest away in the league since October 84 for 15 straight seasons till 1999. 0 wins away. But he ends it with hashtag believe20. Believe20. At halftime, I had belief that, this was the plan, the game plan, Keith. But we needed to step it up. Of course, we are second half FC. We know this. We rev it up in the second half. Of course, we look at the bench and we had Darwin Nunez snarling away, locked up. I saw the memes of like dogs on a leash and saying that's Darwin there. We had Szoboszlai. We didn't know what kind of fitness, because Szoboszlai has been out quite a while now, lads. It's been a bit difficult. And of course, Endo. But Endo was always there to come on to see the game out. You know, the James Milner role. The main substitutions that I was looking towards. But of course, you had your eyes elsewhere. Of course, you're already giving it away. But those three amongst them were the subs that you was eagerly awaiting. Did you think halftime, let's do it? Let's not waste any time? Or was you of the mindset of let's see how it pans out, opening 15 minutes?
Yeah, I was ready to be patient.
Really? With
I
Jaden
was.
Dan's?
I mean, even though like I wasn't patient at the start of this show, I always think that any time in football, I think as long as you've not picked up any injuries, and no one had such a terrible game. You know, Forest weren't all over us. It wasn't one of those games where we have to change things. I thought we've got games every 3 days till the end of time. So it's kind of like, right, if you can give Nunez the 60th minute, Endo the 60th minute, Soboslai 60th minute, I'd rather that than having to throw him ice cold until the 45 minutes. So I was patient at halftime, but yeah, to your point, Grizz, deep down I knew that the only changes that were it was going to be off the bench where the game would change, in my opinion, because it was lacking a real centre forward. It just needed a centre forward. Again, I agree with what Evan said, and I've seen some of the TikToks about Cody Gakpo, and I think it's incredibly harsh, to be honest with you. Ultimately, the man has been available. You know what I mean? He's been there for us.
Well,
You know,
let's have a little segment on Cody. Let's have a little segment on Cody Gakpo, and I want to get the others' opinion as well. So I don't want to just get yours, but let's hear you out for Cody Gakpo. So there was criticism. Let's not beat around the bush. There was criticism. There has been criticism last few games. I personally think it's unjustified, and that is coming from not a Cody Gakpo fan. You know, I'm not, as you I don't know if you guys remember, but I wasn't a fan of his. I don't think I don't think he'll be a regular starter for us, but I've always said for the price and for the profile and for the age and for his maturity and his game intelligence, I thought he'd be a valuable member to this squad. And I think he has shown that he's a valuable member of this squad. Absolutely has. But I think he's, again, one of those ones we don't know where he's going to end up. What's his role? And I don't think yesterday's tactics suited him. And I don't think his fellow forwards suited his way of playing. And I definitely don't think the midfield suited him. So even though he had a stinker, in my opinion, that's fine. We can say that. He didn't have a good game at all. I don't think it was his fault per se. Like, everything around him wasn't suited to his game, I think. That's my opinion out of the way.
No, not really. I'm a huge Gakpo advocate. Like when I think about what helped us turn things around last season, obviously you can point to Trent inverting at home to Arsenal. We went on that run. Obviously ended up missing out on the Champions League, but certainly bettered our fortunes. Trent inverting was huge, but for me, Gakpo going central and Nunez going wide was just as important. Because Gakpo, in at least 6 or 7 games there towards the end of the stretch, was doing as good of a Firmino impression as anybody is ever likely to do. And that's an incredibly high bar. Roberto Firmino is the false nine of the age, not named Lionel Messi. And I had this pointed out to me on Twitter by a few people in various wording. Gakpo centrally hasn't been as effective this season because Liverpool have drastically improved the technical floor of their midfield. You think back to last season, right? Not only were we struggling to defend counterattacks, struggling to win duels, struggling to get interceptions, all of those things you attribute to industrious midfield work, Liverpool's technical floor in the midfield department had also fallen off a cliff. We were struggling with passes over 5 to 10 yards. So when we moved Gakpo centrally, a player with a pretty high technical floor, and he's dropping in to become that spare midfielder to complete the box midfield in a lot of situations, all of a sudden Liverpool's ball retention improved dramatically overnight. We're maintaining a siege in the final third much more often, and it's very flattering to Cody Gakpo. If you look at the work that we've put into the midfield department, not just in the transfer market, which is the biggest part, but also just in training, we've added Soboslai, we've added McAllister, Curtis Jones, this last injury aside, has been largely fit and firing this season, and we all know that he is a press-resistant definition of ball retention. So now we've added such a safe technical floor to our midfield. The complement of Gakpo dropping into a false nine is not nearly as noticeable or as necessary as it used to be. And all of a sudden, the temptation to go with your 85 million pound center forward who's a direct threat through the middle is now all of a sudden very tempting. It's what we've done, and it's paid dividends. So I think Gakpo has been a victim of circumstance. He's been a victim of our own brilliant depth. He's been a victim of having brilliant teammates. He's been a victim of Liverpool getting better. He's been a victim of his own versatility. As I've said before, we've asked him to play 5 different positions. this season. If I go to Y Scout right now and they break down minutes by percentages, you can see how many minutes this season they've spent in each position. It's like 20% here, 15% there, 18% there, 22% there. It's all very sort of spread out and sporadic. And I'm not in any rush really to push a Cody Gakpo out the door because, guys, we've had good attacking depth for one season in the Klopp era. Think about to the pinnacle of the Klopp era. We had three world-class attackers in Divock Origi. All due respect to him and what he was able to contribute as a squad player. This is so much better, and I'm in no rush to get rid of any of it. The criticism being levied at Gakpo is 2 or 3 games in a row of not making good decisions in the final third. I think that's what it boils down to. And hold on, let me land real quick. Diogo Jota, think about his contributions this season. He was undroppable before he got it. You can't drop him. He's scoring every single game, keeping Liverpool in games, winning Liverpool games. Prior to that, he had gone a year without scoring. A year without scoring. And lo and behold, Diogo Jota is a good footballer. Liverpool are a brilliant team. Klopp's a brilliant coach. So he makes his way back into our hearts. Let's allow Cody Gakpo a few games of not being totally on it. You know what I mean? Like we can afford him this luxury. We have the depth to do so. I'm in no rush to chastise Gakpo or push him out the door.
Keith, you wanted to come in with something before we get
I just think
Conroy's.
Yeah, I just think, which is real quick. I just think as well as football fans, I just think we have such short memories. I mean, we're talking about what, the last 2 games. I mean, I thought it was really good against Brentford. I thought it was really good against, very, very good against Luton, and he scored, right? And in the Carabao Cup final, I think he was unlucky not to score in the first half. So, I mean, we're literally talking like a sample size of the last 2 games where I thought it was very disrespectful. And it's not a lot of times I say this, talk about other things I see out there, but I thought it was very disrespectful to see a particular TikTok go viral, chastising Cody Gakpo after having, you know, that's not what we're about. Do you know what I mean? As a fan, but we shouldn't be doing that. You know, he's played a lot of football, right? And I think at this point, we usually ignore these things, but I think it's also important for some, like what Evan's just done there, and us to kind of say, yeah, or that comment I just said there, yeah, he had a bad day, next. And I think it's important to also like put content out there to support him and just say, hey, it was only a couple of weeks ago when we were in the midst of an injury crisis that Gakpo actually did step up in 2 key Premier League games and got us 6 points. So, you know, I think we should.
I think when Evan speaks about a victim of circumstance, I think that is, for me, the best way to describe the situation with Cody Gakpo. I think the fact that we're in such a crucial spell, a tense spell, a nervous spell, crunch time, we have our front 3 out. We're literally relying on Diaz and Gakpo for goals. And if there's a slightest dip in form, then our frustrations get the better of us. We know the new age, and I'm part of it because I have a YouTube channel and a platform. So I'm not excluding myself from it, but I'm part of it. We have platforms that sometimes we say things to engage, but sometimes we get carried away with that, what we're saying, for the sake of engagement. And there's a fine balance. So look, TikTokers and everything, and I actually know the brother who done the TikTok, and I know him personally. Up to him, whatever he wants to say or however he wants to put it out. But I think just overall, it's very difficult to stay rational and logical about things and look at the circumstance and the context. And I think we've given the context around it. You know, we've changed. Every lineup is different. We've got kids playing out of position. Our attack is decimated. And yeah, he did have a bad game. That's fine. No problem. What the hell? You know, so what? And as I said, there's no way, and I'm not a particular fan of his, but I'm a massive supporter of his because he plays for my team. So I will support him to the end until they decide or he decides he wants to move. No rush, like Evan says. Absolutely got loads of time for him. And as I said, he's learning the different roles. There will come a point though, Conroy, where or maybe not. Actually, maybe not. I'm wrong, actually, I think. There doesn't have to be a point where he's a starter in a certain role? Because let's not beat around the bush. He is our 5th choice forward, right?
Yeah, and I think the thing is, Grizz, as well, I think Evan's spot on with this one. This is what we do. It's like we've cried to have depth for years, and then we get it, and then the first thing we're trying to do is put people down because they're not in form. Like, he's not in good form. I think that comment, it is a blip. But also, what world do you live in where 5 of your forwards are all in form at the same
World
time?
starters and crazy. Take out the 3, and I've been having this debate on the Big 6, and obviously no doubt it's going to continue. Hello, take out your 3 strikers and take out your 3 midfielders. What are you all left with? Take out your iconic right back. Take out the best goalkeeper the Premier League's ever seen. Tell me your teams. Name your teams. And they were like, oh, what? And I said, name them. Take out Martinelli, Saka, and Jesus. Take out Odegaard and Szoboszlai, and you know, your DM. Endo hasn't been playing. Where's your teams? Same for Man City. Forget Man United. Forget anyone else. Just look at the 2-2. It's what we're doing right now is quite unique and it's quite special. Sorry, Conroy.
No, you're right though, Grizz. This is the thing. It's like it'd be very unique if all 5 of your forwards were in form. And I think the Jota comparison is really good. Like, you know, I love Jota, but Jota goes through bad spells as well. Like, when he's injured, we're crying for him, and he comes back, and because he is so direct and effective, he has really good runs, and the stats look great, and he can be in good form. But let's not lie, Jota's had poor runs as well, just like Evan alluded to. I know there was injuries in that run without scoring, but he also had a few games where it was like, didn't do much. You're not going to have them all in form at the same time. It is what it is. It's just a blip. I think his variety as a player, though, especially to have a forward who can do a variety of roles across the front line, is going to be invaluable for the foreseeable, to be perfectly honest. If you want a challenge in every competition going forward, you need to have that, like, because that's the way football's heading. Guys, it's 5 subs. It's about squads. It's not about 11. And we've probably done this show over the last, say, 2 years, year and a half. That's probably when that became so pinnacle with the 5 sub rule now, and how teams approach every competition. So to me, I think you accept it what it is and we just crack on. Like, criticism's fine, but I don't think we should just throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, you know, hashtag Gakpo out. I just think that's it's not valuable.
So sad, Conroy, because you hit the nail on the head right at the beginning. You said we have good depth in our forward and midfield department for the first time in the Klopp era, more or less. And yet, instead of enjoying it on a week in, week out basis, you see so many sections of the internet just using it as an opportunity to run more agendas, to find more things, you know, always find something wrong. That is so sad. There's something so inherently depressing about that. And like, we would not be where we are without the contributions of everybody in the squad. Everybody has come up big. Gakpo scored in pretty much every stage of the Carabao Cup. We won the Carabao Cup. Great.
Absolutely.
We still have 3 trophies to go for. Cody Gakpo will have another notable contribution or 2 before the season is up. We will call his name again. We are probably going to call his name on Thursday, you know, because we need to rest people. We need to rotate before the biggest game of the season. We will call his name to win it, to help us win the Europa League. You know, think about how quickly things can change. You know what I mean? Think about the loads of stick Nunez was getting in November and December when he should have been putting games away. We all remember Luton away and all that sort of stuff. And now Nunez is darling to everybody. Think about how quickly things can change. We have to do better. We have to be better critical thinkers. We have to be better fans.
We preached patience, but patience was running thin. Minute 60, Conroy. The troops are rallied, not rallied. The troops are called back, and Endo and Nunez, 60th minute, decide to come on, or Klopp decides to put them onto the pitch. Robertson and who's replaced Robertson, and help me out, guys. Clark? Let me double check.
Kostas comes on eventually to replace Robertson.
No, minute 60th. Nunez and Endo for Clark and Robertson, which means another role for our utility king, Joey Gomez, who goes to left back. Endo takes his place in the midfield, and our boy Nunez goes through the middle. I sensed a change in Nottingham Forest's approach. I sensed an urgency in our play. Everything just turned, dare I say it, chaotic with Darwin Nunez coming on the pitch. Did you feel far more comfortable? This is okay. It's time now.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll mention that in a second. But Keith just put a message in the chat to me to talk about Robertson's chance.
Oh God!
Just quickly before that, no, I agree. I think Keith makes a good point. I think that is probably.
I love him.
Our biggest.
I don't love him as much as you. No, actually, I do. I just don't show it. I love him.
He's not a finisher. Let's not take the mic. He's not a finisher.
He needs to score more goals. He's an awful finisher.
Do you know,
and I know you're going to come back with. And I know you're going to. You're going to come back.
Finisher.
I knew you're going to come back with that. There you go. See, but I'm a guy. I'm a perfectionist.
He should score more, Grizz. No, I'm agreeing with you. By the way, I'm just saying, like that just shows you how many.
I don't want to start a war with you because I'll lose.
No.
When it comes to a Robertson war, I will lose with you.
No, you're right.
I don't want to start. No problem.
He gets into good positions a lot because his actual movement, he does get in there a lot, and that's the reason he scored a reasonable amount of goals. But I'm not disagreeing. He should score more. I think with this one, Notts Forest do well to block it, but it's one of them. It's like in a game this tight, that's a huge moment, and you just need to find that they even go higher, go away from them right in the corner. It is a very good. They do defend it well, but he should score. I mean, I am very, very fair and very ruthless when it comes to finishers getting chances. Should do better, and professional players when they get opportunities. I think he should score that one. It is a good block. They do well, but I saw it for a game that was so on a knife edge at this point for us to, because the way they were playing the low block, we weren't creating anything. I just thought that was the moment there. So just firstly on that, and then secondly, when we rallied the troops like we have all season, at this point I'm not worried because that we've been the experts at that. This plan's not working. We've not played well. Right, here's the recovery team. Let's go back and rescue it.
Pretty much recovery team. It is.
And that was in Klopp's subs this season have been kind of on point timing wise. Even like the season before, but even before that as well, we've had points where as he maybe made the changes a bit too late. I think he's kind of been on the button to be. Him and his coaching staff have been on it this season for that. So at that moment, I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling like, you know what? Like Notts Forest have had their little kind of spell at the start of the game to put us under pressure. We've got enough players on that park now to get the result and really push and hopefully get the goal. So that's where I was at that point. But no, to be fair, Keith, I thought I wasn't going to bring that up there. I did bring it up because I'm fair. I'm fair.
Keith, tempo changed. We went more direct, more runs in behind. Obviously, we've discussed the attack that we started with was never going to run in behind. Diaz was the only one now and again making runs in behind, but he's tired. He's played a lot of games. He's the sole first line attacker, you could say. He's one of the four that you'd think starts more than doesn't. But this guy his box office, he's almost become a must for us now, hasn't he? Darwin Nunez from flop or doesn't do this or we need more from him. Now it's like it's day and night. A Liverpool team with Nunez and without Nunez, it's the contrast, the difference. The whole tempo, the whole mood of the game changed. Forest dropped because it was a weird way Forest were playing. They weren't dropping deep because they knew we couldn't really run in behind them, but yet they weren't pressing us. They were having Gomez have the ball. They were letting Konate and Virgil have the ball. Virgil didn't have the switch on, and that's why they were wary of that. So they were just sort of camped just in front of their penalty box, but not pressing us, but not really deep, if you know what I mean. This guy made them change their whole defensive shape and line.
Yeah, I mean, what Nunez comes on, and I think he involved in about 3 chances
straight away.
Just instantly. It's just crazy, like how he's just a magnet for chances because his movement is just world class. It's not by accident. It's the way he moves. It's the aggression that he puts, into that movement, and he's just willing to make things happen, right? So, to your point, absolutely. You knew that the minute Nunez was going to come on the pitch, like you said before, the game did open up in a weird way as well, though, because actually, ironically, Forest, you're right. Forest, because they brought on Iwani, And I felt like they had almost like a focal point at that stage. And actually, I mean, Elanga probably has one of the biggest chances of the game, actually. Just around the times we made those substitutions, like how he didn't hit the target, only God knows. And I held my breath in that moment. So
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
thought it
what
was in, Keith. I thought it was in. I thought it was a goal, mate. Honestly,
it was just free hit. And one of the interesting things I thought was where Nunez is starting to really find his way is actually because of McAllister and Endo. And I think one complements the other, which complements the other. And here's my take. I think when Endo started coming onto the pitch, Endo gives that defensive security now in terms of he was going in, he was winning tackles. I think he has some pretty interesting stats in the cameo that he made on the pitch. So he's much more competitive. And the great thing about Endo is he's not just a combative in the way Fabinho used to be, where Fabinho would win the ball and then he'd like put it to either to the right or the left, right? So it's kind of like a sideway, call it sideway pass, whatever. I always feel like Endo kind of wins that ball and he's always looking forward. Always plays a forward ball. But what the beauty of it now is that he's created the Makendo partnership, right? Which I think has been.
Is that what you're doing?
That's what I'm going with.
Makendo.
The Makendo partnership, I believe, has been one of the best things that's come out of this whole injuries situation, right?
Okay.
Because I feel like he'll get combative. He'll play the ball to McAllister, and then McAllister's obviously a little bit further forward. Even though at times I do think them two almost play alongside each other. And I feel like McAllister finds Nunez. It's almost like the connection between McAllister and Nunez is enhanced Nunez. Nunez feels more confident that McAllister is going to find that pass where he may have not felt as confident last season with Jordan Henderson, Fabinho, and those midfielders there. I think McAllister, obviously we'll go into it later, but that kind of having Endo come in and Nunez on the other side actually made McAllister's game enhanced even more. Like if you watch the highlights of the second half, McAllister all of a sudden he's involved in everything because Nunez is stretching the play, he's getting more time, and Endo's protecting him in the behind. So yeah, to your point, I think he comes in and he does create that chaos, but I think also Endo coming in also brings out the best in McAllister and opens it up.
So there we go. Do you remember the shape and the lineup we showed beforehand? Look at Darwin Nunez. He's just there. He's there on a sole mission to be in and around the box, make run after run. His average position, obviously, he drives them back. That's a proper centre forward right there. A goal go on.
Can I ask you something? You just said proper centre forward, and I was just wondering, I think, are we coming back to that era in terms of like actually teams? Because the thing is, I feel like modern football, like even your lower league team, everyone like their defensive line now is higher than it's probably ever been, right? So I almost feel like the number 9's coming back in fashion. Would we say?
Yeah. I don't think there's any denying that at all. I mean, I don't know if this was a natural progression. I don't know. Evan will be more qualified to say if there's a natural progression of game to suggest that this was how we average position was. And then if you click on Darwin Nunez, as soon as he comes on, the whole team shape, the whole shape of the team changes. Everything is further forward. Is that natural progression of time elapsing as the time goes on, or is just the Darwin Nunez effect?
It's a bit of both. I would say it leans more towards Nunez as a direct threat, and his instructions are to get in behind the shoulder of the last defender whenever possible. You can look to our Nunez-less games in recent weeks. We've really lacked a direct threat. Just going in behind the defensive line, and that was particularly evident for most of the game before Darwin Nunez came on against Forest. I don't know, y'all do remember in the first half we were struggling to get the ball in and around their 18-yard box to maintain a siege. And when Forest are playing compact and they're suffocating the space in the middle, it's really hard to get there without the temptation of just hitting the ball into the channel and your forward tracks it down and all of a sudden you're there. You can see it immediately when Darwin comes on. Liverpool do not find the space. They can't find McAllister in a pocket. They did eventually find McAllister in plenty of pockets in the second half. But you can see how nice it is to just be able to play Route 1 football, to mix it into a healthy degree. I like direct football. Like if in a very general blanket statement, if you asked me to choose between hyper cautious possession football and a more exciting brand of direct football, I choose direct football. I do think it's more effective for what Liverpool are. Um, and not having Nunez for the last couple of weeks has really exacerbated that particular weakness. And you pointed it out, Grizz, when we first started talking about it. You bring Nunez on, all of a sudden, not only can you just hit a ball and hope, kind of hope, and then you expect to retain the ball in some way, shape, or form in the final third. All of a sudden, that means they're dropping off. And an extra midfielder is vacating his spot in the middle of the park to go help out the center backs. And then that's why in the second half, we were able to maintain such an effective siege, because as a result, McAllister, with all of his technical brilliance and press resistance and eyes in the back of his head, he's picking up some pockets that were so effective. And I'm gonna move the conversation to McAllister now, Grizz. I hope that's okay, because I do think him and Nunez are directly linked here.
Before we exactly, I mean, you and Keith kind of mentioned the ender when it just totally freed up McAllister to weave his magic.
Yeah.
Keith wanted to see and believe Endo's heat map when he came on. That's Endo when he came on. Interestingly, I thought Tsimikas in the last 10 minutes gave us amazing width as well. That's when he comes on. Szoboszlai obviously likes to drift towards the right. But yeah, look, we saw the impact of the subs. It kind of segues into the finale, which involves, of course, McAllister, protagonist. In fact, people may have not noticed, but it involves all 4 subs. This is the beauty of Jurgen Klopp subs, guys. In fact, Tsimikas is involved from the initial cross as well. We get the corner. Szoboszlai takes the corner. It falls to Tsimikas, who has a drive, who has a block. Endo does the gegenpress, wins the ball back. Falls to McAllister, who has the composure and the know-how and the weight of pass and the vision. And I'm going to let all of you lot have your version of events, who I feel as though he may not have picked out Nunez himself, but he sees Virgil and he sees Nunez. Two of the best headers of the ball, the most physical players, and he sees them at the far post and he puts it in their vicinity. If you've ever played golf, he just chips it into the vicinity and let the talent do the talking, so to speak. It was a moment that, guys, we talk. It seems like we talk about on a fortnightly basis almost for Liverpool Football Club. Like, how many iconic moments can we have? The answer is as many as we want. That's the answer. We can have as many as we want. We won't stop. Conway maybe goes first. Your feelings when that happens, it's literally the last kick of the game. Evan wants to focus on McAllister, and let's have a little segment end it with McAllister. Go for it.
The moment, yeah, I think, as you say, all 3 subs being involved. Tsimikas with another corner Tsimikas being involved in another corner, and having an impact. I know it probably falls fortuitously. We win the ball back, but I think it's for me at that time of the game, and I always feel this way when it comes to footballers, especially people who deliver a ball put crosses in. They're aiming for an area. They're not aiming for a specific person when it's late in the game, because they need to just go a percentage cross. Doesn't mean it's a pure cross. I just mean, like, there's two. There's Van Dijk. There's Nunez there. Get it to the back post, and just you're hoping for a flick on. Probably initially, if you're thinking any header of the ball for us, it's Van Dijk probably. He's probably the most clutch when it comes to, like, just scored the winning goal in the cup final in the last minute. So you can understand that. For me, it was reminiscent. Now, what I thought of was when McAllister got it, he's obviously a right-footed player, to cut onto his left foot and whip it like that. It reminded me very much of Barca against PSG when Neymar, he gets the free kick and he shifts it inside his left foot and dinks it to Sergio Roberto at the back post, like the last minute goal there. It was like to change the angle. He'd done that. I know it's slightly different, but that's what it reminded me of, because he changed the angle. He thought he was going to whip it on his right foot and he whips it puts it on his left, whips it to the back post. And listen, I've been very, very honest with Nunez, and I'll still say this. I don't think he's like a clinical finisher at the moment, but that was a huge moment, and that was a clinical finish, because that is not an easy header. We mentioned his header a couple of weeks ago. Do you remember who it was against, guys? I've completely forgot. It was the one that was behind him. That was an unbelievable header, and I think this one's right up there as well. It's to get the elevation and the direction from that angle is outstanding. It's not a tap-in, not by any means. That is a difficult header, and he's stepped up, been absolutely clutch, and you can tell right now for him as well, his confidence is at absolute peak at the moment, and he feels like he's not scared of anything. And I know you've mentioned his movement as well, Keith, but I don't think that's a coincidence as well, because it is games where he's maybe a little bit like not off, but he's not timing his runs exactly correct, but he's right in it now. He's right in that pocket. He's just been on it with the offside. He's in some form. But in the moment itself, I said at the start of the show, sliding doors moment for me is, I think this is a crucial moment in the season. Because I think, as you said, Grizz, I don't think there'll be any more gambles per se. I think that's the kind of last one, playing Joey G at DM, trying to measure.
Bobby Clark debut, Joey G.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think he knows that, and I think it was because next it'll be in the league, it's Man City at home, and then I think because the Everton game's postponed because of the FA Cup, I think then it's Brighton at home. So
we'll talk about the fixtures next 4 because it's interesting.
You've got them coming up, so I think this moment is absolutely huge. Every rival, every probably neutral fan, because we're going to talk about that narrative that seems to be created as well, are desperate for us to drop points. They're like, can't be bored with the Jurgen Klopp farewell tour, blah, blah, blah. They're watching their screens, they're on their phones, they're absolutely desperate. Just let me see the emoji, the full-time whistle. The young kids couldn't get through with it. They couldn't sustain the form. Then Nunez with that, wow. And the fans in the stadium absolutely must have been ridiculous, to be honest, because there's late goals and then there's just like games where you feel like you're just not going to do it, and pulling that off is sensational. I would also add as well, it's great that McAllister, we mentioned Trent's passing ability being the best passing team, one of the best passers in the world, to utilise Nunez, but McAllister's really stepped up as well, because Trent's obviously injured, that as Evan mentioned earlier, and Keith, because he's always making those runs and being so direct, McAllister's he's always had the ability, but he's the main man now for those passes because Trent's not on the team. So yeah, just honestly, guys, I don't say this often, but I think that was absolutely crucial. Like, I think we could have faded away a little bit. Not straight away, but when Man City in the game after that, you have a flat 0-0 with Forest. You've got to G yourselves up for Man City. Now we're absolutely buzzing. In the chat, we're raring to go next Sunday. We're ready. We can see. I think we'll be confident now going into that game, and I think it's a huge sliding doors moment for me personally, and I think it's massive.
Mr. Cross.
Look, I want to touch, because I know, Evan, you wanted to touch on McAllister, so I wanted to touch on Nunez, and I just wanted to make one point. When McAllister initially, so actually two things. First of all, Endo making that, basically, he gets the touch on the ball, which dispossesses. He also did that against Brentford, by the way. He gets the slightest of headers. He wins that header in the box, which drops to Van Dijk. He plays it long and Nunez scores.
He's been crazy, guys.
Endo's just there. Yeah. Fulham. Yeah. So he's just there. He's incredible.
Just scoring a banger, Keith. Just like, top corner against Fulham. He's just
amazing. And the other thing I'll say is that when McAllister gets the ball, because I'm a big sucker for Darwin Nunez's movement, right? When he's on it, I think he has the best movement in the world. When McAllister gets that ball, Darwin Nunez is in an offside position. Yeah, press pause at the moment it falls to when McAllister has his back as the ball drops to him. Darwin Nunez is in an offside position. By the time McAllister has played that ball, Darwin Nunez has managed to instinctively get into the line. Also, shout out to Van Dijk, who's very clever to push the defender to make sure, just in case. But Nunez's ability to kind of get in there, get back into line, and then make the move again. Like, for me, this is world class. This is so hard to do in any game of football. Like, your mind to be that sharp, especially as he's had the layoff, to identify the opportunity, to identify how he needs to come in onside, to come offside and get to come onside, and then adjust himself to do the header. That for me is worth every single euro we paid Benfica for. That's why you paid the big bucks for. So, Darwin, I get frustrated at times when he gets caught offside because I know how good he is in running that line, and that movement for me makes the goal.
Evan, you wanted to segue into McAllister.
Yeah.
Well, you wish you wanted to segue into McAllister. Actually, I've said you look like him actually, by the way, and I don't know if people.
Thanks. It's
Yeah.
I wish my my friends had stood up for me the way Messi stood up for McAllister when everybody was calling him Ginger in the Argentina national team. When I was in middle school, my friends just let
No,
everybody
it's
call me
not.
Ginger. They never
Call
did
them out,
anything for
Evan.
me.
Call your mates out.
Yeah.
Man. Bad.
That's what I'll say about that. So I already talked about how Nunez changed things tactically and the way he can stretch the Forest block, opened up pockets in the middle for McAllister. That second half for McAllister, and I've rewatched it this morning from a less emotional perspective. Are there 10 better midfield 45 minutes of midfield play in a Liverpool shirt? Are there 10 better? Obviously, it's a different type of midfield performance than a Gerrard scruff of the neck, charging, battering through people, ripping it from 30 yards, winning the game. That's a different type of midfield play. This is that second 45 from McAllister is a masterclass in game state control. We were giving him the ball in such concise little pockets of space, and he was just eyes in the back of his head, absorbing the pressure, giving it to whoever needed it, knowing when to shift it wide, knowing when he could play it through the middle to Nunez or Jayden Downs or whoever it was. I just couldn't believe it. Y'all know when you're watching a game on TV, right? And the color commentator, the former pro, whoever it is, Gary Neville for y'all. And Gary Neville's actually the king of this. Sometimes, he'll kind of off microphone make a noise when someone does something incredible, like the the Gary Neville.
Yeah.
I forget who was on commentary on the American Peacock broadcast. It might have been Lee Dixon or something, but there was just a few moments where McAllister, just eyes in the back of his head, just on a swivel, just wriggled his way out of just situations nobody should be able to. Thiago-esque. And there's Lee Dixon more than once was just he just could not believe what he was seeing. And I felt the same way. And it's poetic that McAllister had all of the composure with the last kick of the game, essentially, to pick out Nunez or Van Dijk. I share in Grizz's point that I don't think he's picking out either of them specifically. He's aiming for a very short 5-yard zone in between the 6-yard box and the defensive line.
If you're an intelligent player, and we know he's probably the most intelligent player in the whole squad, and they say eyes in the back of your head, or you have a picture. I certainly did anyway. I was a very highly intelligent football player. And you have a picture, and he has a picture. He's already seen the picture where he knows Virgil and Darwin are lurking at the far post. And so therefore he knows, I think Conroy is talking about, change the angle because it's going to be a right. First of all, he's looking see if there's someone on the right wing, and it's Endo is not really in a comfortable position. Even if he gives it to Endo's not really going to have the space to whip in across. It's not really a Trent. If that was a Trent, maybe he would have given it to Trent. But that's another sign of game intelligence. And this is no disrespect to Endo. Not to give it to Endo, which is the obvious pass, whoever it is on the right side. You think to yourself, no, I'm the guy here. I'm looking around. I'm this guy. There's no Thiago. There's no Jota, Salah, all the other players. I'm the main guy here. I need to make something happen. And he just turns on a sixpence, changes the angle, and then just does that chip in the general vicinity, general area.
Corridor of uncertainty. He has a tiny. He's like, I have two big guys at the back post. There's a small 3-yard vertical zone that I need to put the ball in between the keeper and the defensive line, and he does it. And all the plaudits go to McAllister. Nunez does great. It is a underrated athletic moment to be able to backpedal, jump, and direct the ball to where it needs to go. More than half of the forwards in the league would throw out their spinal cord attempting such a. It's a sneakily athletic thing that Nunez was able to do, and it couldn't have happened to anybody else. I wouldn't have wanted anybody else to score the winner.
No,
Maybe Jaden
no.
Dance. Maybe Jaden Dance. But
Maybe Jaden Dance, yeah.
Alexis McAllister, take a bow. You have rocked my world. There's only one midfield Premier League signing that was 100% worth the money this season, and you are it, my friend.
Wow.
Everybody else still has things to live up to. You are worth 3 to 4 times what we paid for you.
There you go. There you go. Con.
I just add on that as well. I think when we signed him, and we've always had the debates about 6 and playing at 8, but I do think when he's just higher up, he's just so influential. He's 25 years old. I'd said it when we signed him at Brighton when I've watched him. World Cup winner, and not just, being pivotal in a World Cup team, playing a variety of different positions, especially in that team, the way they had to press. Like assist in the World Cup final as well. This guy's ceiling, right, is going to be higher. He's going to get better as well, because the way it works this season, however it ends, he's probably going to have half the season at number 6 and maybe, a little bit more in a number 8. But when he gets even more settled in the team, we're doing really well. Not that we're not playing well, but I think he's just going to get better. And I did say his ceiling's going to get higher. And for the moment, being correct in that, because he just is such a clever player. Like, he's just intelligent. And obviously, I think a little bit because of his stature as well, he's quite clever in small spaces as well. He can just wriggle free at times and play passes that people aren't necessarily, it's not the obvious predictable pass. And I just think I said at the time, he can go on another level. And what I've seen is just proving that point at the moment. And I just feel like, I just think it could be one of the best signings. I don't want to say that now, but the way he's going, he's only 25. We signed a World Cup winner who started in midfield in the World Cup final for, was it 40 million? When people are paying obscene amounts for midfielders. We have done that, and he's 25 years old. Not 31, not 32, 25 years old. Wow.
Can I just add one thing as well? I do think, like, him starting out in the Liverpool midfield as a 6 has actually benefited him in terms of understanding the positional play of Liverpool and where to engage in defensive situations and transitions. And I actually think it's elevated his defensive game, an area where I didn't realize he was as good at in terms of timing his tackles,
100%.
being in the right place at the right time, dogged, fighter. So I just wanted to mention that point. I mean, I know I agree actually in the 8, particularly that second half, I think he's much better but actually alongside a DM, do you know what I mean? Like, that's where he's really coming to his own, in my opinion. That, as I said, ever since Endo and McAllister have been playing next to each other, I think it's just taken him to an even bigger level.
I was wrong in terms of I should have known better. Him being an Argentinian international playing in that midfield where it's all about, well, it's not all about tenacity and sort of, pressing and energy and vibrancy and doggedness and being, his strength off the ball has impressed me. He's a solid presser, and the way he tackles, he's a strong tackler. We know his on the ball ability, but his sort of defensive side of the game has astounded me, and I'm forever learning, different traits.
Me too, Grizz. I'll be the first to admit that one of my big coming of age moments as a fan of the game, not just Liverpool, has been realizing that being a good duelist as a midfielder is probably 80% mental, 20% physical.
Yeah.
That's why you see guys like Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, not exactly physically imposing players. That's why they consistently top the charts and counter pressing and things like this. And if you're built like Claude Makelele, more power to you. If you can go for 120 minutes like N'Golo Kante, more power to you. But being a smart presser is just so much more than your physical output. And I think that's why Wijnaldum was so valuable to us, because he had the mental side of pressing and solidity to a T, and he also had the physical edge to go alongside it. And that made him so brilliant. And that's been a real eye-opener for me in the last 2 or 3 years.
Copite says, what a player. Just listening to you guys talk about him makes me smile. I hope we've made everyone smile, and Nunez definitely made us more than smile. Elation, jubilation, ecstasy. Wow. Like scenes at full time. A lot of my friends went to the game. I unfortunately didn't go. Call me a flop song. Call me what you want. Yes, I didn't go. I was feeling a bit under the weather, a bit of a cough, and I thought, away ends can get very congested and tight, as many of you have probably seen the scenes of jubilation, and I didn't want to maybe be there while I'm not well. Where are we now, though, guys? What's happening? What's going on? We every week we talk about how many points left, how many games left, how many wins needed. My calculation was off. I hold my hands up. 5 weeks ago, I said 87 points will do it. I no longer believe 87 points is the target. I now believe the target is 18 or 90 points, I'd say now. 90 points wins the league. There's 11 games to go. I believe 9 wins does it, guys. I don't know if you want to do the maths, or is it like I'm looking at.
I don't know if it's about. All I know, Grizz, is like you said, we've been doing this for a few
Yeah.
months at this point. And here's the thing: it was all everyone's like plan. We all had different ways of looking at it, but everyone's plan involved beating City at home. Everyone's like math that they worked out was contingent on that. That was the one thing we all agreed upon. And we have made it through this horrendous injury crisis, and we're just racking up the wins. And we still have that slender 1 point lead on them.
My target in my head, guys, was if we get to the City game ahead of them, like that will be fucking huge. By hook or by crook, we've ended up ahead of them by 1 point. All equal games played. Now, I know we've got Europa, but I'm going to skip Europa just for the benefit of the chat, because we'll speak on Europa during the midweek and build up to it. And of course, I'll do a match reaction and everything else. But I genuinely thought we're going to be possibly a point behind when we go into this City fixture. So we are above my personal expectation. Where are we with you guys? Con, are we ahead of your expectation? Because this is crunch time now, guys. In a couple of weeks' time, there's going to be single-digit games left. Do you know what that means?
Yeah.
Do you know what that means?
Squeaky bum time. It does get nerve-wracking now.
It's single-digit games left.
Yeah, it's for me. I'd say it's great to be in this position, and I'm glad it's still in our own hands at this point. I'd said before, I think we need to beat City. I think you have to do that. You have to hurt them, because even today, they're always going to beat Man United, but they're purring at the moment as well. De Bruyne is back. Foden's probably in the best form, or debatably in the best form he's been. As you said before, Chris, he's the man at the moment. Like De Bruyne has came and made a difference as well, but Foden is taking a lot of. He's probably listened to a lot of criticism he's had unfairly at times, and he's definitely there for them at the moment and relishing it. So I think we need to hurt them. Listen, if we draw, we draw. The only thing that's kind of spinning me about with this one is you've got that third horse in Arsenal there, right? So it's like if we draw, they're buzzing with that, and they've got relatively not bad fixtures. I can't remember, is it Spurs next weekend they've got, or am I getting mixed up? Is it Spurs Arsenal next week, or is that it's soon anyway?
So they've got a couple of easy games before they come into a horrible month.
Horrible run.
They've got Brentford and Sheffield United next 2 games, and then they've got
that. Yeah, but the thing is,
and a must win against Porto, and a must win against Porto.
Yeah. Absolutely, and the laws of like being realistic and rational. I get that. I do hear that, right? But you don't want to give them any confidence as well. You don't want, because they have been playing pretty well as well in the league and destroying.
I personally think, just my opinion, guys, and people always speak about Grizzlies got a pro Arsenal agenda. Fucking can't stand the fans, but I personally think they're playing the best football in Europe right now. They're the most confident, strong team in Europe, in my opinion.
Yeah. Do you know what's interesting? I just don't think other teams have drawn yet. This is what so Liverpool have drawn the most games out of the top 4, right? So Liverpool have drawn 6 games this season. City have drawn 5. Arsenal have only drawn 4 games, right? I think we are getting into territory where draws are defeats. And This is what
yeah, for sure.
So people are looking at like, oh, defensive, like, would Arsenal lose there? I don't think it's a case of will Arsenal lose here, will City lose here, etc. It's more like, can somebody hold Arsenal to a draw at Spurs or at United or at Brighton, right? Which they've got to go to. They've got to do those kind of matches. Like, I'm really interested to see, because I think that, or is it going to work where we've drawn one too many games yet again in another title season, where Liverpool end up being the team that loses the least amount of games, but also draws the most amount of games and therefore finishes second or third by a couple of points? Because that's the territory we're in at the moment. Whereas Arsenal and Manchester City have already lost double the amount of football matches in the Premier League than we have. So that draw against City, in my opinion, I don't think is, because I see a lot of people saying, no, a draw against City will be fine. No, I agree with Conroy. We have to beat Manchester City at Anfield. We've got 3 games in a row at Anfield, right? We've got City, we've got
Brighton. I think it's Brighton.
Yep, City, Brighton, and
Palace,
right? 3 home games, right? We could go into April, 3 wins under our belt, right? Pulling away from Manchester City. Obviously, Arsenal, if they're doing the same thing, fair enough. But we've got 3 of the most penultimate, the biggest home matches I think we've ever had as a football club, because we're in a 3-horse title race, arguably one of the hardest leagues this season. When you look at how many points Villa have in 4th this season, arguably one of the hardest seasons to know in a 3-horse title race where we are leading and ahead. For me, we have to 100%. There is no question about it. Whatever happens in the Manchester City game will determine everything, because if we draw that game and Arsenal win their next 2 games, which is Brentford and Sheffield United, then Arsenal will go above us. They go above us on goal difference.
Also, just to add as well, sorry guys, the 31st of March is Man City Arsenal as well.
I was just going to say.
Sorry. Yeah. So that's huge.
If they win those 2 games in hand, or before we play next in the league, if they win those 2 games in hand, they go above us. But then their next league game is away to Man City. This is so fucking brilliantly set. This is
why I'm gonna be the unpopular guy. I think you've lost the plot if you don't take a draw against City.
See,
obviously, I want us to leave heart, soul, and limb on the pitch at Anfield. I want it to be a raucous occasion. But my point is, if we're approaching the final seconds of the game and it's currently 0-0, 1-1, 2-2, whatever, I am not going to be walking away hanging my head. That's my point. Obviously, winning against City would be the most important thing to happen for the rest of the season. Obviously. But we should not be entering into what if, shoulda, woulda, coulda territory if it's the 97th minute and it's looking like we're drawing against City. Because, like you said,
I don't know. I've racked my brain. I've racked other people's brain. I've racked you guys' brain.
I'm not saying don't. I'm not saying don't go for the win. Like, sure. if it's the 85th minute and it's 0-0, 1-1, whatever, we have 1 more sub left, and Klopp wants to throw on Jadon Danns and go for it. I'm with that. I'm with that. And no, I don't want this to get misconstrued. In no game state am I asking Klopp to throw on Jarell Quansah and hold out for the draw. I'm not asking for that at all. I'm just saying, if we do draw, if it's looking like we are drawing, we should not lose our heads. I went on here a few weeks ago and I said it's about avoiding defeat. Why are Liverpool top of the table right now?
Yeah,
they've lost the least amount of games. It's literally that simple. Because if you try to draw, comparisons between like goals scored and defensive solidity and goal difference, we're talking about a hair's width between the 3 teams. Liverpool have managed to avoid defeat more than City and Arsenal. That's why they are first. And I think, yeah, that's just all I'm saying.
I'm with you overall, but the thing that's been bugging me, guys, and I think someone said it in the chat, or one of you guys said it. Alejandro reminds me, let's not forget City's final run-in is way easier than us. We will have Everton and Villa away. We also have United away in 5 games' time. This is a huge opportunity, and probably the second, in my opinion, the only 2 opportunities, in my opinion. People can say, no, there'll be other points dropped, whatever. I think Man City's, and it's obvious, the two remaining fixtures that I expect or want and I hope and think they can drop and will drop points is Arsenal and us. I think we have to capitalize and at least put one of the contenders, would you say, out of the picture because they'd go 4 points behind us? Or would you still not rule them out? Because they still got to go to Spurs. They still got Arsenal.
The ultimate bogey fixture away to Spurs, Man City.
But you know what they're like.
You know we've got some bogey fixtures, Ev. We've got United away and Everton away. We can draw there.
I think what I was just going to add to that as well. See, last year, right? Sorry, 2 years ago, in my head, and I remember it, the Etihad 2-2, right? Remember that game where it was like it was half 12 kickoff? Was it? I can't remember.
We needed a win.
Needed a win, right? And De Bruyne superb that game. And to me, on that game, we accepted the draw, which obviously is City Etihad. I do understand that. Like I completely get where Ev's coming from, and I do agree with you to a certain extent, mate. I just feel like this team, when they get going, and the Spurs fixture is interesting as well because usually they have that earlier time in the season. I just think when they get going, they'll not stop. They can go and they're like us. You know, Arsenal have not done that, but they have done that. They have went on a 14-match winning run. And I just feel like you have to hurt them while you can. Because then if we manage to get the win, when that Arsenal Man City fixture comes, right, say it's a draw, I think Man City will win that because when it comes to crunch time, I think they'll just blow Arsenal away. But we can be watching that game, rubbing our hands together because either way it goes, it's good for us. And I think, I'm not saying Arsenal can't do it, by the way, but if you're looking at it from just experience and previous, there's a good chance that Arsenal can drop points. I'm just not confident that Man City can drop points. And in that season with the 2-2 at Etihad, we had that type of feeling. And I just think from experience watching this team, I think if they can have it in their own hands, they just don't stop. So for me, that's why I'm so hell-bent on we need to hurt them at Anfield, get the crowd and go for it. Now, obviously, what Evan's saying is if it's the 91st minute, you're not going to gun-ho and shove Kelleher up for a corner. And, like, I get it, not to leave yourself at the back, open at the back, I get it. But I do tend to agree with Grismore and Keith. I just feel like we have to hurt them. That's where my head's at now anyway.
They're there to be hurt, in my opinion. You know what it is with City?
Did we say that? See, okay. This is where I'm going to play a bit of, not devil's advocate, I'm actually giving my honest opinion. You say that, Keith. I don't think we're in the healthiest position to hurt them. That's the problem for me. And this is the dilemma that I've got in my heart and my head. We're not close to peak though. Salah's not there. Jota's not there. Szoboszlai is just returning to fitness. Nunez has just returned to fitness. I don't think we're at our peak going into this game. Now, I know you're saying they're vulnerable. They are, but they win games. They win games and they have won games, and that's why they're a point behind us, even though we're saying they've doubled the defeats and they've done this and they look at we can vulnerable. But sometimes I think we console ourselves a bit too much by saying, no, we're not healthy right now. If we were full gung-ho healthy squad-wise, 65,000 or 62,000 Anfield, I will be there 100%. The only slight thing in my thing is we're not 100. And I know Jurgen Klopp's tried to manage the lineups and the squad rotation so we peak this week, basically. I just think we're about a week behind in terms of fitness and peaking. Curtis Jones, huge loss. Trent Alexander, huge loss. Alisson, huge loss. These are fucking huge. Jota, for me personally, the biggest loss. You know, because I believe we beat Arsenal, Man United. I believe we get one of those, at least turn those 1 point into a 3 points. One of those games if Jota starts. So I get you guys saying, yeah, we need to put one on them. I just think it's going to be cat and mouse. I genuinely think it's going to be cat and mouse. Neither squad, neither coach, I don't think is going to be absolutely clear in how to approach it. I think it's going to be very, very tactical. I could be wrong. It could be a Newcastle Liverpool 5-4-4-3.
There's big decisions to be made in terms of personnel. It's probably very tempting to sit Bradley and play Gomez right back next week.
Interesting.
That's probably because we've trusted Joe Gomez, younger, more inexperienced versions of Joe Gomez, by the way, to play fullback against City in the past. play fullback away to Camp Nou, and it hasn't exactly been a disaster. I just want to point out, just for just a bit of a lighthearted joke. There is a universe in which Aston Villa beat all 3 teams in front of them and end up in the title race in the final game. I forget one of Joseph Tyrell's comments. I'm looking for it right now. He said, "I believe everybody has to go to Villa." Yeah, here it is. Everyone has to go to Villa. I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
I think
Villa,
Arsenal play Villa
guys,
at home. When they play at home.
yeah, okay. Villa are the 4th best team in the country. It is not completely outside the realm of possibility that Villa pick up 7 points from those 3 fixtures and all of a sudden find themselves in the conversation. I don't know. I'm trying to add some comedic relief.
Well,
but
you're right. It's crazy because Villa, Spurs, United, the 3 teams that are vying for that 4th spot, 4th, maybe stroke 5th spot for the Champions League. I'm not sure if that's been confirmed. Has 5th spot?
It's not confirmed yet, Chris. It could be 5th, but it's not confirmed yet.
So Spurs, United, and Villa that are vying for 4th places. Guys, have I got news for you? All 3 still have to play the top 3. Make of that what you will. How fucking insane ending is this? So the 3 that are top and vying for the title are all yet to play the 3 that are directly underneath them, who are also playing for something. There's no dead rubbers. It's
box office.
One of the things I will say,
box office.
Is one thing is interesting, Conroy. You touched on this. I'm one eye on this, and is that we've spoken a lot about Arsenal not being like the one who hasn't had the experience of kind of, going on a City run, a Liverpool run, winning consecutive games. I think that's the big worry for me. Arsenal have currently won 6 games in a row. Yeah, against Sheffield United, it will be 7, including beating Liverpool. Right? Those kind of runs could soon turn into 10, 12 wins in a row. And we all know what happens when somebody gets on a bit of a win roller coaster, shall we say. So that's also something that I've got my eyes on. Do you know what? Sheffield United can pull something out the bag, but I highly doubt it. It's just not going to happen, is it?
Now you're wild. You was watching Man United, Man City. I don't know what. Like, I hope you comes true for you, but you're relying on some madness, man.
I've got more. Honestly, see the way it works out. A couple of years ago, Chris Wilde with Sheffield United, you may have thought that, but this team are pretty much awful. They're championship team. But the thing is, the mad thing about this year is you trust Rob Edwards and Luton to get something off Arsenal at the Emirates more than you would Sheffield United at home. And it just shows you how it works at the start of the season. Like, Luton have been far more impressive tactically and actually hurting teams than Sheffield United. So it's funny how the way a season goes, your perceptions change on certain teams. But I honestly, that would be one of the biggest shocks of the season if they draw with Arsenal.
Oh no, what do you mean it's biggest shock? It would be the shock of the season. Absolutely.
Definitely.
We're going to end with this. Yusuf Patel says, hello, panel and viewers alike. I'm 54 in a few days. Any more games where we win in the 98th minute, 99th minute? I don't reckon I'll see 55. Listen, I hope you see many, many more years, Yusuf. Thank you very much. I know you've been a recent subscriber and you're really enjoying the content. You've messaged me a few times, so thank you very much. We have to end it. We have to end it. The title's not ended. Nothing will be ended. Nothing will be decided. But we feel as though it's the most pivotal couple of weeks. I can remember, guys. I'm nervous and excited and scared, and have all of that rolled into one, because it could be so amazing and it could be so heartbreaking. But we've been here before. Let's do this. Of course, before that, we have a Europa League game to look forward to. I have a feeling we may send out a slightly weakened squad in anticipation of the big one on the weekend. I will be there. Hopefully the Red Fellas will be here. Obviously I won't make it, but the Red Fellas will be here. Hopefully they will be celebrating like mad. I don't know who's going to host. Whoever hosts, Please let me gate crash on the way back. And let's hope it's a celebration, guys. Let's hope it's a celebration. We didn't come this far. We didn't come through this roller coaster of emotions to not have some joy. Listen, don't forget to check out our sponsors, yourfutcard.com. Go and check them out. Go and check out their website. Banners, prints, flags. Get your flags ready. Get your banners printed. Be ahead of the game. These are the guys to go to. They will design, work with you. Go check them out. Type in Red Fellas at the counter and you will get 15% off as well. As Cloptimistic says, it's squeaky bum time, guys. We will be there. Hope you've enjoyed tonight's show. I certainly have. I enjoy it. I love talking about Liverpool, and I love talking to the community, and I love talking to the Red Fellas. Take care. Peace out. All the best.